It all started with a game. When AlphaGo defeated the world champion of Go, the message was clear. Artificial intelligence had arrived, and it was smarter, faster, and more strategic than anyone expected. In this eye-opening conversation, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt reveals why AI is still massively underhyped, how it will change everything from business to geopolitics, and what it means for you. Are we prepared to ride the wave or be crushed by it? Let's find out.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really zeroing in on non-human intelligence and the huge shifts happening there. This was sparked by a really interesting conversation with Eric Schmidt.
Right.
We've got his insights from a recent interview, and, well, our goal is to cut through some of the hype, maybe?
Yeah, get to the core of what AI means now, where it's going, and what it means for you.
Exactly. So we're digging into what Schmidt actually said, his observations, his predictions, his concerns, too.
And one thing that really jumps out is his view that AI is actually underhyped right now, which sounds, a bit strange given all the buzz.
Totally counterintuitive.
So we'll unpack that, look at the risks, but also the massive potential upsides he sees.
Okay, sounds good. Let's maybe start back in 2016. Schmidt flags this as a really key moment, the AlphaGo games. Feels like ancient history in AI terms, maybe, but it clearly stuck with him. He mentioned a photo from that time, said it captured when things really changed. What was so big about it?
Well, it was game 2, I think. AlphaGo was playing Go, obviously a game with 2,500 years of human strategy behind it.
Right, incredibly complex.
And the AI makes this move, a move no human player in all that time had ever come up with. Or even considered, apparently.
No way.
Yeah, think about that. Millennia of brilliant minds playing, analyzing, and the machine finds something completely new and effective.
So it wasn't just winning, it was creative.
That's the key thing Schmidt points to. It showed a kind of intelligence, a strategic creativity that was just alien to how humans approach the game.
Wow. And technically, how did that happen? I heard something about its objective function.
Exactly. Its main goal was simple. In a way, keep its probability of winning above 50%. That single-minded focus led it to calculate this, well, totally unexpected, but optimal move.
It just makes you ask, how could a computer figure that out when humans hadn't for centuries?
Right. And that's Schmidt's point. This wasn't just, a computer beating a person at a game. It was a signpost, a new kind of intelligence showing up.
Demonstrating strategic thinking we hadn't seen.
Precisely. He really sees that as the start of the current revolution, the thing that got him really deeply involved.
Okay, so let's jump to today. AI is everywhere in the conversation, obviously, but Schmidt still says it's underhyped.
Yeah, strong claim.
Especially with things like ChatGPT blowing everyone away just a couple years ago. How does he justify that?
He makes a really important distinction, I think. He says, yeah, ChatGPT was huge. That visceral reaction to his language skills, totally real. He felt it too.
Okay.
But he argues most people equate AI only with those language models. His point about it being underhyped, that hinges on what's happening in reinforcement learning.
Ah, okay. Building on that AlphaGo foundation.
Exactly. It's moving beyond just language generation.
So what can these newer systems do then? He mentioned OpenAI o3, DeepSeek R1.
The big deal there is their ability to actually plan, to strategize. He talks about them looking forward and back.
Forward and back. Meaning?
Meaning they don't just react. They anticipate. They model future states. They make decisions based on complex, long-term goals. It's much more sophisticated.
Okay, that sounds like a significant step up.
Definitely. He even gave an example from his own rocket company, using AI for deep research tasks. Getting these incredibly detailed papers back in like 15 minutes of supercomputer time.
15 minutes for deep research.
Yeah, which, as he points out, is an extraordinary amount of computation.
I bet.
So you see the progression he's outlining. Language understanding, then language to sequence like translating DNA, which is huge for biology.
Right.
And now this planning and strategy capability. His vision goes towards AI agents eventually running whole business processes, communicating with each other.
Yeah, that's quite a future. But you mentioned the computation. He calls these systems hungry hippos for data and compute, right? Sounds like we're hitting some walls.
He's very clear about the limits. Energy is a massive one, a really practical physical limit.
How massive?
He told Congress the U.S. might need an extra 90 gigawatts. That's like 90 new nuclear power plants. He doesn't see that happening overnight, obviously.
90 gigawatts, good grief.
And think about the scale of data centers being built now, globally. He mentioned places in the Arab world, India, building centers needing 5–10 gigawatts each. That's city-level power consumption.
So just the sheer energy demand could slow things down, even if the algorithms get better.
That's his argument. He kind of dismisses the idea that algorithms alone will solve it. He quoted that old text saying, "Grove giveth, Gates taketh away."
Meaning software just eats up any hardware gains.
Pretty much. And he says moving from deep learning to reinforcement learning to this test-time compute idea where AI learns while planning, that increases the compute demand exponentially, maybe 100, even 1,000 times more.
Okay, so compute and energy are huge bottlenecks. What else?
Data scarcity is another one he flags. We might actually run out of useful public data to train these things on. They might need to start generating their own data.
Which raises other questions.
And then there's a really deep one. The limit of knowledge itself. Can AI truly invent something fundamentally new?
Like a real scientific breakthrough kind of new.
Yeah. He notes that human breakthroughs often happen when someone connects dots across different fields, applies a tool from one area to a totally different problem.
Seeing patterns others don't.
Exactly. Current AI doesn't really do that. It's very good within its domain, but not great at those cross-domain leaps.
Is there a path forward there?
He mentioned something called non-stationarity of objectives. Think of it like the rules of the game, constantly changing while the AI is trying to play.
Okay, like trying to drive a self-driving car if traffic lights kept changing color meanings.
Sort of, yeah. That constant need to adapt to shifting goals might force a kind of genuine invention. But, he adds, if we craft that, we'll need even more data centers. Could open up whole new sciences.
Fascinating. So, incredible potential, but very real constraints. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Autonomy, that's always a big topic. Yoshua Bengio called for a pause on developing agentic AI systems that can act on their own. That's a serious concern from a major figure. How does Schmidt see it?
He definitely respects Bengio and acknowledges the concerns are valid, but his focus isn't on whether there are risks, but on what we do about them practically.
Okay.
He uses this analogy. Imagine AIs create their own computer language,
Yeah.
one we can't understand or monitor. What do?
Pull the plug?
Exactly. You'd have to metaphorically unplug it. So his point is, stopping development entirely isn't realistic in a global market.
So instead of stopping, build in safeguards. Guardrails.
Precisely. He stresses the need for provenance, knowing where an AI came from, and observability, being able to see what it's doing.
Makes sense.
And there are some generally agreed upon red lines, these sort of unplugged conditions.
Yeah.
AI that can recursively improve itself without limits, AI with direct access to weapons, AI that can reproduce itself autonomously.
Okay, those seem like sensible lines.
So yeah, his focus is much more on building robust safety measures than trying to halt progress.
Right. Which leads into the whole dual use problem, doesn't it? AI for good, AI for bad, especially military uses.
Absolutely. It's inherent in the technology. He does point out we already have some frameworks, like the U.S. military policy 3000.09, the human in the loop principle, keeping meaningful human control.
That seems crucial.
But he also sees the U.S.-China competition in AI as really defining this space. It touches everything.
Like the tariffs.
Yeah, he mentioned how tariffs affect the supply chain, put down to things like chip packaging, components coming from China. It shows how tangled it all is.
And China's frustration about restricted access to the most advanced chips.
Definitely. He talked about the Track 2 dialogues he did with Kissinger and Chinese officials. That was a major issue.
And this leads to different strategies. You mentioned closed versus open models.
Yeah, that's a key difference he highlighted. The U.S. seems to be favoring more closed proprietary models. China, potentially, could become the leader in open source AI.
And that has big implications.
Huge. Especially the risks of powerful open source models getting out there. Think cyber threats, bioweapon design. That's a major concern.
He compared the situation to the nuclear threat, didn't he? Kissinger's ideas about mutually assured destruction.
He did. The worry is that the speed of AI development is destabilizing. Unlike nukes, where there was time to build doctrines, AI moves incredibly fast.
How could that play out?
He sketched a scenario. Imagine a good guy nation gets way ahead in AI. A bad guy nation falling behind might see that advantage as an existential threat.
Because the leader just keeps getting further ahead. Network effects.
Exactly. So the lagging nation might feel forced into desperate measures. Cyber attacks to steal the tech, infiltrating models, maybe even, and this is scary, preemptive strikes on data centers.
Wow.
And his point is, we don't have the international rules or understandings to handle this kind of situation yet. And he thinks this sort of crisis point could be just maybe 5 years away.
That is sobering. And it ties right back into that open source debate.
It does. He calls it a wicked hard problem. How do you balance the benefits of open research, which is how we got here, with the danger of letting powerful tools loose?
Where do things stand now, in his view?
He thinks the consensus currently is that open source models aren't yet at the level of being a global danger. But the trend is worrying.
And who decides the direction?
Realistically, the US and China, because they're the ones pouring massive capital into this. Europe and others just don't have that same scale of investment right now.
And he mentioned Kissinger again, worrying about accidental war?
Yeah, drawing that parallel to WWI miscalculation escalation spirals. It's a heavy concern.
Okay, so it's this tightrope walk between innovation and safety. And that brings up another tension he mentioned. Safety versus surveillance.
Right, the paradox.
The tools you might build to stop bad AI outcomes could end up looking like a surveillance state themselves.
Exactly. Things like proving your human online proof of personhood or moderating AI content at scale. These are tough problems.
And the risk is building Big Brother while trying to stop, I don't know, rogue AI agents.
That's the fear. You could accidentally create a really intrusive system trying to prevent misuse by, say, non-state actors.
Does he see a way around that?
Well, he stresses his own commitment to individual freedom. He hopes we can build AI systems that are actually freeing, not restrictive.
How?
He mentioned technologies like zero-knowledge proofs, ways to verify you're human, maybe, without revealing who you are or allowing tracking. So tech solutions might help navigate that.
That's hopeful. Okay, let's pivot to the more positive side. Schmidt co-wrote Genesis, and he did talk about some amazing potential benefits.
Oh, absolutely. He gets quite excited about this. Things like potentially eradicating diseases.
Seriously, eradicating.
Well, he mentioned a nonprofit aiming to map out all the druggable targets in the human body. And startups claiming they can slash the cost of phase 3 drug trials. Big leaps in medicine.
Okay, that would be incredible. What else?
Unlocking fundamental science. Understanding dark energy, dark matter, leading to revolutions in materials, maybe even transport. Big picture stuff.
And more down-to-earth benefits, too.
Definitely. Personalized education for every child on Earth in their own language. Gamified, adaptive.
Yeah.
Just imagine that.
A personal tutor for everyone.
Yeah. Or AI doctor assistants improving healthcare access everywhere. He even thinks AI could help with loneliness, with the disconnection many feel today.
So he sees this as truly transformative.
His perspective is pretty stark. He thinks the arrival of this level of intelligence is the biggest thing to happen in maybe 500, even 1,000 years.
That really puts it in context. So if AI does take over a lot of the work, the economically productive stuff, what do humans do? Universal basic income and chilling out.
Yeah, he kind of laughed that off. He doesn't buy the endless leisure idea. Human nature, he thinks, stays pretty constant. Lawyers will still be lawyers, politicians. They'll adapt.
Okay, so no utopia of relaxation.
But he does raise a serious point. Birth rates are falling in many developed countries. We'll have aging populations.
And AI helps how?
By radically boosting productivity. If AI can make each worker vastly more productive, we can potentially support those aging societies.
How much of a boost are we talking?
He mentions studies suggesting maybe 30% productivity growth per year, which is, well, economists don't even have models for that kind of growth. It's unprecedented.
30% a year. Wow. Okay, so this transition is huge, complex, full of potential and peril. What's his advice for navigating it?
For technologists, leaders, just regular citizens.
The main thing is, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to stay engaged.
Because things change so fast.
Exactly. Exponential change means we forget what things were like even a year or two ago. So he says you need to ride the wave daily, not just check in occasionally.
Keep learning, keep adapting.
And it's for everyone. Artists, teachers, doctors, business people, techies. Everyone needs to adopt and use this tech to stay relevant.
It's becoming fundamental.
Yeah, he shared a quick story already seeing AI like Anthropic's Claude connecting directly to databases that disrupt whole business models practically overnight. And that's just one example.
Right. His point is, expect countless changes like that coming constantly.
Okay, so wrapping up the key takeaways from Schmidt. AI is probably underhyped if you look beyond language to planning and strategy. Huge challenges with compute and energy, complex dilemmas around autonomy, security, open source, but also immense potential for good.
And the absolute need for everyone to engage, to learn, to adapt.
And that final warning from him really resonates. Don't screw it up.
Yeah. It puts a huge weight on this generation, doesn't it? Shaping this incredibly powerful force. It really makes you think, What are the most crucial things we need to get right now to steer this towards a positive future?
Definitely something to ponder.